All right, we are live. Thank you guys for coming back. I truly, truly appreciate it. Boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I'm gassed from all the stuff going on in the news and the infighting. That's really the big thing I want to talk about tonight is the infighting on the conservative side of the aisle, on my side of the aisle. And before we get into it, I have to show something funny because the rest of what we're going to talk about is serious. And if you're any of I have some watchers that kind of have known me to be more PG-13. I try to keep it, just because it's what I try to do for my live streams. But tonight's not going to be that night. So this is a guy, Amuse. I don't know a ton about him. I follow him, and he posts some decent stuff every now and then. But this is what I imagine when I see all these internet sleuths out there doing the research on the recent assassination of Charlie Kirk and all the video footage and the clips and all that. This dude has set up command center in his office that is, this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Anyway, I think this is why people are rotting their brains right now. Maybe I'm included, me on my little laptop and a couple of little screens. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start off by talking about Candace Owens. Before I get to Candace Owens, I have to mention something that she brought up. This is part of her live stream tonight, and she's talking about the camera guy. This has been one of the conspiracy theories that's floating around. Who is this mystery camera guy, and why in the world is he pulling down this camera? Well, Turning Point USA actually addressed this, so let's go ahead and play the video. They talked about it today, who this guy was, why he was doing what he was doing. Let's listen.
Our dear friends that literally from the very beginning started with us and loved Charlie like a brother. He grabbed the SD cards out of the camera afterwards. And there's all these conspiracy videos about, like, why did he grab the SD cards? Well, first of all, they're in the possession of the FBI. Okay. It's not like he took them and ran off with them. Second of all, I asked him personally, I said, why did you do that? And he looked at me, and this was his answer. He said, because I know people can be evil. And he did not want that footage being grabbed by somebody.
I called this when people first started bringing this up. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but that was obviously what the guy was doing. He was worried about the camera, the SD card, all that being stolen because it's this big event, this big thing that happened, this historic tragedy, and he didn't want people getting their hands on the footage. It's obvious. It's quite obvious. Another thing that came up was when after all these horrible events that we went through, after the horrible day on September 10th, they started having guests appear on Charlie Kirk's show. So these guests started showing up. What was the first set of guests, and what obviously made people lose their minds? It was that the Daily Wire was on there. And what these were the claims. The Daily Wire's taking over the Charlie Kirk show. The Daily Wire co-opting the Charlie Kirk show is a slap in the face to Charlie. False sympathy, knowing Charlie was starting to push back against the status quo narrative, meaning the Israel narrative is what they were talking about. And then donations or hostile takeover. This is why this first versus right mentality that people have is... It is grinding my gears, absolutely grinding my gears. Because what did we find out? Oh, hostile takeover? No. In fact, we had Glenn Beck, we had Tucker Carlson, we had Megyn Kelly, we had Jack Posobiec. This was the start of a sequence of people coming in here to honor Charlie Kirk. But what did the Nick Fuentes types, and it wasn't Nick Fuentes in this instance, which we'll talk about here in a little while, but what do all the anti-Israel people say? It's a hostile takeover because that's the only thing that the Jews are ever going to do is just take over Charlie Kirk's show. It's this first versus right stuff has got to stop. It's got to stop. Now, tonight, I'm going to be talking about some of the, this is my opinion on things, and I'm trying to... some of it's going to involve Charlie Kirk, but some of it's going to involve the larger MAGA movement, of which I consider myself a part. I consider myself a part of that movement. And how this has, in particular around Israel, how this has become this binary, you are either with us or against us sort of thing. And I almost titled this video, Do I Believe in the Woke Right? Because this is a term that it's kind of an innocuous term. I honestly don't even know what it means. People keep saying, "Oh, this is the woke right, the woke right. Everything's the woke right." It is, people on the right who aren't. I don't even know. Let me just be honest. I have no idea what the woke right is. I've seen 5 different definitions, and honestly, I couldn't care less. All I know is there are factions inside of the MAGA movement that are breaking us apart. And right now, it is central to Israel. That's the argument that people are making. And we've got a few big figures in this that have been, making the rounds. And one of them is Candace Owens. And the other, let me give you Candace Owens, my take on her. So she is one of the Jesus killed, or the Jews killed Jesus sort of Catholic people. And it's not every Catholic, because Catholics do amazing things. And I have a great deal of respect for Catholics because their humanitarian efforts and all these things are fantastic. But there have always been factions inside of that. And I don't know if Candace Owens is a part of one of those, but I know that this has been driving her. She is one of the, if a tragedy happens, it's because of the Jews. That's just the way she's gone with it. And I guess that the whole, the Jews killed Jesus thing, I guess she doesn't understand what a prophecy is, but that was foretold. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And she's also doing this, as it seems to be, as a deflection from the whole Bridget Macron has a penis debacle that she's in. Everybody should know that she's been sued. She's going to be taken to court because she's been making these accusations. She did a whole documentary on it. She spent, untold hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would assume, on trying to prove that Bridget Macron has male genitalia. And by the way, now she's starting to blame that on the Jews also. The fact that this is they're providing biological evidence that she was wrong. And so she's also trying, as it pertains to Charlie Kirk, she's trying to create this revisionist version of her friend, who she says she was friends with, which I believe that she was. I'm sure that she still was, because Charlie was not the kind of guy that was going to turn anybody away. That's not what being a Christian is. When people start going down a different path, you still try to bring them back to some level of sanity. So I think that they were still friends. I don't know how close of friends. I don't know. I'm not in that circle. And she will talk about the text message that she received. But she has gone into this Jews are responsible for everything type of mentality, and that is a dangerous one to follow. Now, Tucker, I'm going to bring him into this briefly. He's the second person. And I'm going to go back to a video I made recently. And I've kind of pushed aside people that want to give me heat for my opinions on this stuff, because that's just part of this game. And I've had videos where people just absolutely lambast me because I go after things like Sharia law, or because I go after, Mamdani in New York. That was another one. There's people have their little picadillos, but he started minimizing Sharia law and basically came back on a podcast and called Hamas a political movement, stopped referring to them as a terrorist organization. But he's also gotten into this, anti-Jewish sort of mentality, and you can have that mentality. This is where you got free speech. You can think whatever you want. But he's one of the big players in the MAGA movement, because he was anti-Trump, became MAGA, became pro-Trump, and then is moving his way back into anti-MAGA and anti-Trump. And I can't figure out why, but it could be because he believes everything that he hears, but I don't necessarily think that's the case. I think best case, he's just trying to build a base that's going to be loyal through the next election. But, what that looks like, I have no idea. And the third person that I'm going to talk about, the third of 4, is Ian Carroll. And Ian Carroll gets a ton of play on social media, a ton. And he's a conspiracy theorist, which is fine. I'm sure that some of the stuff he has brought up is probably true. But the way that he approaches this, similar to Candace, everything is the Jews. 100% of the things are the Jews. And that's coming from Smith. What's his name? Oh my gosh, it just left me. You know who I'm talking about. The comedian, who is very much, not a Zionist, which is fine. But he says, bro, you're even getting too tinfoil hat for me. But people take it seriously because we need common enemies. This is where a lot of these divisive figures come in. And the last one is Nick Fuentes. And I still believe, and I will show you tonight, that he's fake and that he is a liar. And I believe that he is a plant. He's also a bigot, and he's a woman hater. That's part of his MO. But, there's some other things that Tucker has said about him that I think are right. But now his base is turning on him because he wouldn't take that same stance of anti-Israel. So this rift is being driven into the MAGA movement, into the right, surrounding Israel. And I've shied away from this so many times because, people are it I mean, I was going to say are religious about this, and it's kind of what it stems from is different religious factions, and should we not support them? Protestants and Catholics. Other people are just worried about the money, because we've sent them about $3.3 billion. But it gets to a point that people hate them so much and blame them for so much that they can't fathom a scenario where it isn't the Jews. And this is it doesn't pass the common sense test in my mind, because there is no room for nuance anymore in that conversation. It's an important conversation. It's a very important conversation, because I have admitted that, does Israel deserve to exist? Absolutely. Is Mossad a corrupt intel agency? Yes. But do I believe that a country of 14 million people, entirely 14 million people with a $500 billion GDP, has the ability to control a country with 360 million people and a $23 trillion GDP, or a $28 trillion GDP, actually? That doesn't pass the common sense test to me. Could they be influential? Absolutely, in some ways. People say, oh, AIPAC, but they don't want to talk about the hundreds of millions of dollars that the Qataris pump into the politics in America, the billions of dollars that they pump into the universities, and where is all of our indoctrination coming from? It's coming from the universities. And, when it comes to the funding of Israel, it's, we give them $3.8 billion. Yeah, and they turn around and they spend $2.4 billion back in the United States. So these are our arguments that I get it. People want to have them. I'm a budget hawk myself. Should we be giving them $3.8 billion? I don't know. I think that's up for debate. We could. But is this something to divide a positive movement? Is this really $3.8 billion to a country that is surrounded by people, one of our allies? I still believe that they are one of our allies, our strongest one in the Middle East, because the ideology that drives the rest is the destruction of our country. Do I believe that we should be pumping them $3.8 billion? I don't know. I mean, it's technically $900 million. Once they turn around and spend that money back in the Defense Department, that's the MOI that we have, the agreement that we have with them, is that they spend 78% of it back in America buying defense products from us. Is $900 million worth breaking up the movement that we had and the movement that Charlie Kirk was a huge part of? No, I don't think that it is. I don't think that it is. So I'm going to start with Candace Owens. She's the kind of the ringleader of this whole thing. I'm going to touch on some of the other folks. I'm not going to go as much into Tucker Carlson. You can watch my video before where he was talking about Sharia law, where he is, yay, Sharia law sort of thing. That, I don't know if you've heard that it's bad. He was talking to a guy, I think they were referencing the Palestinian situation, but you can watch that video, but I'll give a couple of points. But let's start with Candace. And so she's basically telling the world, she's trying to go on the defensive now, telling the world what a dead man, a hero to us, to a lot of people, what he believed, and saying that she was a friend with this guy. And the internet sleuths have shown that they weren't even following each other on social media anymore. Charlie might have been. She wasn't following him anymore. There was all the rigmarole around her breakup with the Daily Wire and all of this. And she came back after the assassination of Charlie Kirk and said that if TPUSA put in anyone that she didn't like, because she was one of the masons of that organization, that she would come after TPUSA itself. So you all better tread carefully, because I'm going to wield my millions and millions of followers to do something to Turning Point USA. Does that sound like a reasonable approach before Charlie Kirk has even been eulogized? Does that seem like a rational stance to take? And she said, well, we were still texting, right? This is the text that she sent. She sent one. They're talking about Sarah Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky. If you don't know who these people were, they were two. Well, so one was Sarah Milgram was an American Jew and a member of the public diplomacy department at the Israeli embassy. And Yaron Lashinsky was a German-born Israeli citizen and a member of the embassy's political department. And back in May, they left an American Jewish committee, the AJC event, and they were shot. They were fatally shot in Washington, D.C., and they were talking about that event. So that was back in May, and this is what she sent prior to. Now, some other text messages have come out between them, and I feel like this is high school. The fact that we have to do this is like high school. And that's honestly my impression of Candace Owens. She is a grown woman with kids of her own, and she still acts like some high school drama queen, and it's infuriating to me. But here we are going through the text messages. I was still texting the guy. I've said this before, that do I think Charlie Kirk is the guy that would delete her text message, her number? No. In no way, shape, form, or fashion would he do that, because everyone who knows him, his reputation is one of a generous and kind and loving person. And no, he's not going to delete that. So, okay, they texted back in May. And this is all she's provided. What I want to know is, based on the new text messages that have come out by another person who was texting Charlie, talking specifically about Candace. I'm not going to get into them because they haven't been verified, so I don't know. But if that's the case, he was still in contact with her, trying to get her to calm down some of her stances. That's what it was implying. And that's, again, assumption. Don't take that as the gospel, because we're still learning more about all that. But it begs, all this begs the question, which is how Candace is trying to paint this, that he was pushing back against the status quo and he hated Bibi Netanyahu, something that Tucker Carlson also said. Could that be the case? Yeah, it totally could be. Was Charlie on board with, this Jew hatred from the right? This anti-Israel movement from the right? Absolutely not. There is zero indication of that. Was he questioning some things? Yeah, watch the PBD podcast. I didn't pull up that clip because it's not necessarily, you can watch it. There's tons of video footage out there. To keep the program moving, I'm not going to play that one. But he said, yes, I'm concerned about some of the things that are going on in the Israel-Gaza conflict. It is a nuanced situation. And this new right-wing faction in the MAGA movement wants it to be completely bipolar. It is black and white. It is yes or no. You have no other option other than to be if you are a Zionist, you are evil. If you like Israel, you are evil. If you think we should be helping Israel, you are evil. And if not, then you're fine. If there's any nuance in there, you're automatically going to side with their version of the enemy. And that's not a tenable stance for us to take in politics. There's always going to be some nuance. There's certain things we have to put our foot down, but this isn't one of them. Do we know if they were still friends? As I said before, or were they occasional buddies? We don't know. But the fact we are trying to litigate this is very frustrating to me, because Candace could have kept her mouth shut, done her show, honored her friend, instead of ginning up this, the Jews did it, Charlie thought this, Charlie thought that. Because I've got millions of followers, I'm going to go out here and try to paint his history, paint his reputation in my image. That's the way it comes across. Is that her intent? I don't know. But that's certainly the way it sounds from everything I have heard her say. And I will say that the thing that strikes me about that movement, her side of the movement, are people like this, completely tactless. Completely. This is Ian Carroll. This is a guy who is, obviously he is strike first. It is the Jews are responsible for every problem in the world. And he is going after Erica Kirk. She has not eulogized her husband yet. And he's saying, ever consider that Erica can't speak? If anything happened to her, what would happen to her children? This is what he's talking about. Can you be any more heartless? Can you be any more ignorant? And this is what turns me even more against the people on that side of the spectrum. Why it seems like it's nearly impossible to bring them to some sort of, not even a compromise, but some sort of nuanced situation. No, because it's been, it's been just over a week. And this is the type of stuff that they're posting. And they're getting scripts, by the way, from somewhere. I don't know where, or they're just copying and pasting each other. But here are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 accounts. They all post the exact verbiage. How many times have we come out and said, what in the world? These Democrats are all on TV. We can watch the montages of people coming out and saying, it's the, I'm trying to think of one. You guys in the comments can give me one. He's a dictator. We'll just use that as an example, talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger. Donald Trump is a clear and present danger on MSNBC, ABC, CBS. Everybody's saying he's a clear and present danger. And the Jew that was used as a decoy in the Charlie Kirk assassination was also used for 9/11 propaganda. You can't make this up. It's all over the internet. This is a montage that someone else did. I'm sorry that I didn't give credit to that person. I should have. That was rude of me. Does that not seem unhinged to anybody else? Here's Jake Shields. This guy gets boatloads of viewership. And this was Megyn Kelly says everybody under 30 is against Israel. And this person said, I am under 30. I unapologetically support Israel. What does Jake Shields say? He says, you're Jewish though, and thus don't count as a person. How can you find common ground with people like that? And it's not minuscule amounts of people. It's not a small number of people. It's a lot of them. What I'm trying to figure out is how is this seeping into, because if you go to the Nick Fuentes effect, it would be hundreds of thousands of people that watch his content, that love his content. How deep is this going, and how big of a fracture is this making in the Republican Party? I made the argument to a guy that I do some panels with, and in his panel that I was on, I said that I believe this is going to hurt us in the midterms. And I hate to talk about that a week after what happened, but I think that this fracture is one that is going to damage us in the long run. That's just a fact. As much as I hate talking about that now, even though it's only been a week, that the people coming out in droves is going to have a massive impact. And it concerns me. Now, there's some other folks that have been coming out and obviously saying, because, again, nothing against my Catholic brothers and sisters. I love you guys. I love you guys dearly. But there are some factions, and there's some on the Protestant side as well. So just take that for what it's worth. That Charlie Kirk was, and sometimes I talk faith on here, but that he was converting to Catholicism, that he was moving away from Protestantism because the bulk of the support for Israel does come from Protestants, acknowledged. And they said, well, he's converting to Catholicism. I'll play the video. It's 2 minutes and 51 seconds of him explaining why he's not.
On one of my major concerns of Catholicism. And I mean, I love Catholics, as people know, I'm very close to even my local Catholic priest, Father Klein, great guy. My wife was baptized Catholic, but I have some big disagreements with Catholicism. And the first of which would be Mariology. But let me first say, I think we as Protestant evangelicals under-venerate Mary. She was very important. She was a vessel for our Lord and Savior. She is a phenomenal example, and I think a counter to so much of the toxicity of feminism in the modern era. However, I would say Catholicism goes way too far. Catholicism believes two things as dogma, and most Catholics, if you ask them this, some don't even know. Number one, do you believe that Mary was sinless? The Catholic Church does. There is no biblical basis for this, the only of which would be that Mary was full of grace in the Annunciation of Mary in Luke 1. That is a big stretch. By the way, that was not even added into official Catholic dogma till the mid-1800s. The second of which which is called the Immaculate Conception. There's a second form of Catholic dogma that believes that Mary was assumed into heaven, that her physical body was actually the Assumption of Mary, was assumed into heaven. Again, that is a pure faith claim. It is not biblically supported at all whatsoever. So I think that we as evangelicals can do a better job of remembering, studying, talking about, and pointing towards Mary, because she was a vessel chosen by God Almighty that brought our Lord into this world. But I find biblical evidence to the opposite. I find biblical evidence to show that Mary was sinful like all the rest of us. In fact, I see biblical evidence that it says very clear, I think, in the book of Romans that no one is sinless except Christ Jesus. This is not a major issue for me between me getting along with Catholics, me loving Catholics, me thinking that Catholics are doing a great job for the planet and for the world. But I personally would not be able to enter into a faith that believes that anybody except Jesus Christ our Lord was without sin. And that's my final comment on Mariology. Happy to.
Okay. So there you go. He's made, there's nothing that Charlie Kirk hasn't said. They couldn't tell you where he was spiritually, politically. All of these things are known. And to say otherwise, to try to imply otherwise, I think does him a disservice, first off, is selfish, second off. And, I mean, it's disrespectful. We knew that guy. Everybody, he billions and billions and billions of views. Thousands upon thousands of hours of content. Amazing content that guy gave us. And that you get somebody like a Candace Owens coming in and saying, nope, this is actually what he thought. This is actually what he believed. Now, some people have said that Candace that this is part of a deflection, that she's deflecting because of her, I guess, case, the one that she said she didn't want to have dismissed. Let me make sure I'm pulling up the right one here. Sorry, I've got several images to this one, and this is her kind of unhinged. Look, I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. When I first heard about the Brigitte Macron thing, I thought, okay, is this it's a funny troll, right? It's a funny troll. And she said, well, let me play the video first here. Let's play her video first. It'll just take 1 second here. Thank you guys for joining. It looks like we've got quite a few folks on. I appreciate you guys coming on. All right, let's play this one first.
They're coming in, they're squeezing, and they're trying to pretend that Charlie and I didn't speak for years. It could not be further from the truth, okay? Charlie and I never for a single second stopped being friends, ever. Never happened. They can't produce one shred of evidence to that effect. Nope, just donors. And the donors at Turning Point need to be investigated because what I'm hearing, like I said, from Turning Point sources is not good. And guess what? If it's gotta be me and you need to hate me forever, that's totally fine. On top of that, talk about a federal operation out of nowhere. Brigitte Macron just lies. I don't even know how they got this in the press. This is so dumb. Brigitte Macron comes out and says they have offered scientific evidence to the U.S. court to prove that Brigitte is a woman. That's what her lawyer says. Well, the lawyer's a liar because we haven't even started this case yet. So how could you have offered scientific proof to a court to prove you're a woman, especially because you're not suing me over the claim that I said you were born a man. You were born a man. Oh, I guess you're born a boy, a male is what I should say. You're born a male, and you've never sued anybody for making that statement. You sue for things around it. You're suing me because you're saying, well, you said I stole the identity from my sister. I'm not a thief. You've never sued anybody for the claim that you were born male.
Is that correct? No, it is not. In fact, it's on page 1. I will show you. Page 1 of her lawsuit. There you go. Page 1. Following false and defamatory statements, I believe Brigitte Macron was born a biological male and then transitioned into a female. In addition to that, what else was she saying? Well, we need to investigate the donors to Turning Point because all of a sudden, now that I'm saying all this stuff, this thing with Brigitte Macron comes out and they say, well, we're going to provide photographic evidence, interesting, of Brigitte Macron. Are we serious? Investigate Turning Point USA, the organization of her friend. Why? Because, well, there might have been some Jewish people. There might have been some Jewish people donating to Turning Point USA because they're the ones that are coming after me. That's the point that she's making. Good gracious. I'm going to play another one. This is coming from Charlie Kirk's pastor, and this has been obviously debunked many, many times over. People that know the pastor, people that knew the contact that they had with one another.
It's like new flex operation mocking pastor, regarding which, by the way, the first time they went after Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, a source told me, and I would love to get this confirmed, I'm going to find this out, that $150 million was spent on that, and it came from Bibi Netanyahu. I would like to figure out if that's true. But anyways, obviously investigating this, and I'm not going to let it go, okay? You're not going to emotionally use some jujitsu, and I'm referring here to Roy or Rob McCoy, who says, I'm Charlie's pastor, and here's the truth, or whatever it is, to look the other way right now, okay? You're not going to tell me that I have to feel too bad to investigate who shot my friend in front of my face. So stop the nonsense. This is what Charlie's pastor passed around to all of the people that were intimidating Charlie leading up to his death. It's funny that Charlie's pastor couldn't find his voice when Bibi Netanyahu was lying about Charlie. Here's pastor. You know what he's saying are lies. No, he didn't find his voice saying anything about Bibi Netanyahu. Candace investigating things? Yeah, that's got to stop. Here's what he wrote, okay? What's his name? Rob McCoy. He wrote, Charlie Kirk was my friend and I was his pastor. I want to simply say this regarding Candace Owens. Charlie Kirk was a friend to Candace and never publicly spoke poorly of her, though he disagreed with her. He never operated nor entertained gossip or innuendo concerning Candace. My only comment I offer regarding Candace is this: I only wish at this tragic time of mourning, she would be the friend to Charlie Kirk that he was to her. He would never have treated Candace or her family in such a way had, God forbid, this tragedy been hers. A friend loves at all times, and he drops a biblical proverb. Now, let me say this, okay? I hope that Charlie would have been the sort of friend that I'm being.
Wow. Is that something that look, a pastor, a guy who's saying, hey, cool it, Candace Owens. Hey, cool it, Candace Owens. Stop being the way you're being because I know Charlie Kirk, because I communicate with Charlie Kirk. Is that the type of, when a pastor sends a message like that, is that the moment to attack? No. But that tells you how little tact Candace Owens has. Good gracious. And then she got asked by another one here. I know I'm going hard on Candace, but this is the content has just been flowing like crazy. So the New York Post reaches out to her for comment, and what is it? Hey, most people generally accept that New York Post is an outfit of the Mossad. Again, everything, every single thing. When you ask for accountability, when you ask for receipts, oh, it's Mossad, oh, it's Mossad, oh, it's Mossad, oh, it's Israel, oh, it's Bibi Netanyahu, Bibi Netanyahu, Israel, Mossad. Is this something, again, I will ask you, is this something that is helping our movement, the positive progress that we were making? Is this helpful? No. Now, there's another video that was, she posted this, and it was never before seen footage. Okay, good internet sleuthing. We found a photo of him in a place, whatever, 15 minutes, and it was in a Dairy Queen, or not 15 minutes, it was like a few hours after this had happened. They said, okay, here he is in a Dairy Queen. All right, interesting. And calm, cool, collected. It's a photo, it's not video. I'm going to play this on, I'll play it on double speed so that you can see. This is 11 minutes, or well, it's actually about 10 minutes. Let's play it on double speed, and I'll turn the volume down.
The qualifications.
So 10 minutes, double speed. Everybody's moving, except for this guy. He is stoic. It doesn't faze him. When they say we're seeking the death penalty, doesn't faze him. When they read off all the charges, knowing that he's at least going to spend the rest of his life in prison, it does not faze him. And yet the fact that 7 hours after this had happened, he was sitting calmly in a Dairy Queen, that's supposed to tell us something? I'm going to scale through it. Look, I can scrub through this whole thing, and one time he coughs, and that was it. The guy's a psychopath, obviously. Look, am I going to say definitively that it was him? I do have to backtrack on that. Do I say definitively that it was him? I don't know. Information is going to continue to come out. There's a ton of conspiracy theories floating around, and we'll see. Everybody's looking for a conspiracy. Most of them I've gone through. I did a whole debunking video on a lot of the stuff that's out there, and it's garbage. It's absolute trash. It's absolute trash. Time will tell. But right now, everything seems to line up pretty well. Now, the text messages, I could talk about that one. I think I've got the text messages down here in, let's see. This one, this is the one thing that gives me pause about the killer. I don't know if you guys have seen these text messages. So they were taken out of the phone and they were transcribed for the investigation. Issue number 1. Screenshots would have been better. Proof that it came from his phone, that would have been better. But 22-year-olds, everybody knows this. It's been run through AI, and people say this doesn't seem normal. So do I think we're getting the full story? No, I actually don't. I actually don't think we're getting the full story on that. It's the only thing that now, the argument I've seen some people making, and the one that does seem to make sense with this guy, is that he sent these to the person in this way to absolve the other person of any and all responsibility. This person that he apparently loved or was having a relationship, his roommate, whatever it happens to be. So, do I think that this stuff could be fabricated? I don't know. It's not the way a person talks. That's for sure. Could this guy, like I say, have been saying, well, you know what? this is, I need to absolve my lover, who I'm doing this for, of all responsibility. Let me make it as succinct as I can. I don't know. It seems weird. Time will tell. Time will tell. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about that I am going to go for here, and I'm going to make some people really, really mad. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. But if you're a groyper out there, you're not going to like this one. The groyper movement is one that I'm not a fan of. Obviously, I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of Nick Fuentes. When folks purport to be Christians and conduct themselves in the way that Nick Fuentes does, that's red flag number one. When your position is anti-Semitic, when it's racist, when it is, entirely misogynistic, you're going to lose me just as quick. But nonetheless, I'm going to give you a couple of examples where Nick Fuentes has basically turned. He's turned on his people. And this one here, let's see.
A contingent on the internet which insists that it was not Tyler Robinson at all. It wasn't the radical right or the radical left, but it was Israel, that Israel struck down Charlie Kirk. Ordinarily, that would be a completely ridiculous thing to say. Completely, utterly ridiculous. You would be laughed out of any room for suggesting that. Why? Because Charlie Kirk was pro-Israel his entire life. Pro-Israel to the hilt. And as far as I'm aware, that never changed. But there is a conspiracy theory that has been promulgated, notably by Max Blumenthal, a Russian shill and a far-left Jew. Candace Owens, another Russia shill and a complete grifter, among others. Jackson Hinkle, another Russian shill, far-left communist. These three have been promulgating the theory that Charlie Kirk was killed by Israel, and they say that is because Charlie Kirk was on the verge of an utter transformation. He was going to start criticizing Israel apparently any day.
Okay, this was not taken well by the Nick Fuentes followers. It really wasn't. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. Well, I've got one, but there's a slew of them out here. This is just to give you a taste of this. Oh, and I didn't have that one pulled up. All right. Oh, here we go. Nick Fuentes keeps running cover for Israel. He calls anyone a Russian shill and conspiracy theorist if you suggest that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. Nick Fuentes is fully compromised. Again, I'm giving you one example. I probably should have pulled one of the hundreds that I saw, but this seems to be the consensus, not the consensus, but there is a huge faction of his followers who are saying, look, if you're not going to say, you've been telling us this all along, that it's Israel runs society, they run our government, da-da-da-da-da. And what really spun him off was when he and Ben Shapiro, here's another one, let's listen to this.
What's going on? But it's like Looney Tunes over there, and it's proving Ben Shapiro was right. Some anti-Semites, or some people that are accused of being anti-Semitic, they just are like smart people asking questions like me. Other people that are kicked out of Daily Wire, they're just crazy. Shapiro said she's a faux sophisticate. Nail on the head, if you ask me, a faux sophisticate.
And believe me, there were plenty of people on the far right who hated Charlie. The Groypers, as I've said before, literally declared a Groyper war on Charlie Kirk. They declared that he wasn't sufficiently radical. It's exactly what I told Bill Maher on Friday night. He said, well, how do we know it's not the Groypers? I said, theoretically, could it be? Because before all of the evidence had come out, theoretically, it's possible. Super unlikely. And you know what I cited as the evidence? The contemporaneous conversations that the shooter had with family calling Charlie Kirk hateful. Because my point was, if you're calling Charlie hateful, that is part of a left-wing matrix of thinking. The Groyper matrix is Charlie wasn't hateful enough. He should have been more hateful. He should have been more vile toward the Jews. If only he had been.
People, it's driving them nuts, even this post. It says, what is happening here? Nick Fuentes says Ben Shapiro was right about people who are suspicious of Israel and Charlie Kirk's assassination. Ben Shapiro defends Groypers. Something doesn't seem right. So it's an op. And wait. You've been telling us that the Jews are responsible for everything. Now one of our biggest figures has been lost, and of course it has to be the Jews. That's what Ian Carroll's telling me. That's what Candace Owens is telling me. You're bought and paid for. Nick Fuentes has got the memo. That was another one I saw. Nick Fuentes running cover for Israel. I mean, oh my goodness. Look, Nick Fuentes, I'm gonna show you a couple of things. This kind of sums him up. First off, I'm going to give you this one. This is early Nick Fuentes. Well, I don't know if it was early. I don't even know how long he's been on the internet. I think it's been for a while, but he was canceled there for a long time. Listen to this. He's
because I led them away from the Capitol.
Keep moving towards the Capitol.
Vince James here, not charged. Doofus did not get charged. This guy. None of these people got charged. And that's because I was with the group walking to the Capitol. I gave the speech. And then I said, this is getting hairy. This is getting dicey. Tear gas started coming down. I said, let's get out of here. We all left.
Keep marching and don't relax. Never relax.
Yeah. So this idea that I was ordering people into the Capitol, not true.
Break down the barriers and disregard the police. This Capitol belongs to us. Yeah.
Not true at all. I led people away from the Capitol.
It appears we are taking the Capitol back. Yeah.
But that's what happened. Now, a couple of other things happened after this. This is very critical.
The police are evacuating the Capitol.
By the way, Nick Fuentes and Ray Epps were the two people who were telling people to go into the Capitol that never got prosecuted. I find that fascinating. Here's another example. This is, obviously, Nick Fuentes will say whatever he has to say. That's been his MO.
We had our disagreements.
This is him on Charlie Kirk.
Is that he would go to these college campuses and proclaim the name of Jesus Christ. And ultimately, that is why he was killed. The gunmen that killed him, they hated him because of his defense of Christian morality. Charlie Kirk cannot call himself a Christian anymore. Sorry, you forfeited that. I do not want to hear, and you cannot allow Charlie Kirk to go to one more public event, one more question and answer, one more ask me anything, without being protested, without being shouted down, without being interrogated about this. This guy goes around from campus to campus in the most artificial and phony and fake way, talking about, oh, God made me very blessed that I control $500 million. Oh, I'm so blessed. I'm so rich and I'm so blessed. And oh, God's been so good to me. I'm such a Christian. Oh, the Lord gave me the Sabbath. I take Saturday off. You sit there and call yourself a Christian and then you make excuses for the genocide of 2 million people? Seriously? You stand there and purport to be an evangelist like Billy Graham? Oh, you're the latest Billy Graham? You're our generation's America's pastor? Why? Because you said the right words? Because you said, God bless, God bless. God bless, my friend. Oh, I rebuke the devil in the name of Jesus. And then you go around from campus to campus making excuses for a famine?
So this guy will turn on a dime, obviously. He's proven that time and time again. I feel like, part of me feels like he's just trying to go mainstream. Like he said, I want all my social media back. I don't think he can unfire that bullet, that theoretical bullet. But his people are definitely pissed at him. That's for sure. And, I see the guy as fake. I've called him an op before because he's one of the biggest movements that's splitting up MAGA. He's ginning up hate. And here's the other thing. What's the end state? Here's his, let me give you, this sums him up. I'm going to give you a clip that sums up Nick Fuentes to a T. Let me play this part right here.
Problem. So they're always coming up with, no, it's not the Jews. No, it's not women. No, it's not blacks. It's actually really complicated. No, it fucking isn't at all. Jews are running society. Women need to shut the fuck up. Blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. And we would live in paradise. It's that simple. It's literally that simple.
The people who follow him, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I never will. This is a guy who purports to be a Christian, who's talking about Christian values and this, that, and the other, and that literally sums up his worldview. There is no positive end state to what he is calling for. None. There's absolutely none. When you follow his ideology all the way to the end, it is not moving this country in the right direction, period. And nobody's ever going to be able to argue otherwise. And he's the king of, well, he makes some good points. He makes some good points here and there. Is there a crime problem here? Is there a problem with feminism? Is there a this, that, and the other? Yep, some of that stuff. But when you distill it all down and you cut through the BS and the hours and hours of content that he's creating that is sowing these little, oh, that's kind of true, that's a little bit true, that's ultimately what he believes. And I can say that with certainty. Okay. That's all I've got for this one. So let's get to some comments here. Let's see. Yeah, because we're coming up on the time. I usually try to, let's see. Thanks to all the new viewers we've got tonight. Appreciate you guys. Yes. Random 2020. RIP Charlie Kirk. You know, that guy he has done what, he's a once in a generation kind of a person. Let me tell you what I appreciate most about him. Of course, I agree with most of his politics. But that's neither here nor there. It's the fact that he can approach people, young kids on college campuses in these indoctrination factories, who are completely void of any knowledge in some cases of God, of Christianity, and he can weave that into the issues of the day, which is our culture war that we're in, and the culture that they've been spending a long time trying to remove God from it. And he's able to say, I will meet you there on that battleground of the culture war, and we will discuss it with ideas, and I will weave in my worldview, which is guided by Christianity. And that is a hard thing to do. It's a very hard thing to do. And he did it like nobody else could. And he was kind, he was, loving, he was just this beautiful spirit, this beautiful person. And yeah, that was taken, but it has motivated a lot of people to go in the right direction. And I always say that, God is not a thief, but this is a fallen world. And when bad things happen, there are ways that we can turn that into a positive. We can do that for our country. We can do that for ourselves. We can understand that tomorrow is not promised. That's a big piece of this, that you never know when your last day on earth is going to be. And is your soul right with God? Are you living your best life? Are you doing the things that are best for you? Yeah. Let's see. What do I believe, David McBride? You ask what do I believe is the official story? Oh man. Right now, I know there's some timing issues. There's people that the internet sleuths have been looking at when this guy actually left his shooting position. And the amount of time from when the report says Charlie was shot to the time that he left the roof. I don't know if the report, these are the things that have to be, there's timestamps on cameras, there's timestamps on all kinds of things. Are the cameras accurate? Everything has to line up perfectly. And when you're talking about, a minute, that is, I don't think the guy took the rifle apart, first off. I did a video, you can go back in my channel, and I actually played it. Even the low res video, you can see the guy putting a rifle down. When he's climbing off the building, you can actually see him moving something. It is a stiff object, obviously covered by a towel. He moves it down to his side, and when he jumps down and as he's walking away, you could see it there as well. So all indications are, if he is the guy and that was him in the video, that person did have a weapon of some sort, because nobody's going to be carrying a broomstick, right? That just doesn't make sense. So far, everything seems to line up for me for this guy being the shooter. And as I was saying before, when it comes to him being calm in a Dairy Queen in a photo, all right, fine. Was that photo recent? I don't know. That hasn't been validated. But he also sat there for 10 minutes, did not move a single muscle while he got told he was going to be tried or that they were going to be seeking the death penalty in his trial. And he was completely unfazed, entirely unfazed. Solemn. Did he seem like a psychopath to me? Yeah, he absolutely did. Right now I'm believing what they're telling me. Who did it, or not who did it, but who was helping him? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. Let's see. I never said she hadn't been with Turning Point for years. This is for Thomas P. So Thomas P said, it's funny watching you people go after Candace. Oh, she hasn't been with Turning Point for years. Literally, she was on tour with Charlie last year. Yeah, she did an event with Charlie last year. I never said that she didn't. How close are they? That's the question that people are asking. Did the check from AIPAC clear? Do you know how much the Qataris spent, by the way, in U.S. politics? In D.C. last year, they pumped $225 million into D.C. There you go. We could ask Tucker Carlson if his Qatari check... I don't know if that's the case. I'm not going to accuse him of that. But a lot of people online are calling him Carlson. I don't know. He did back up, like I say, he did back up Sharia law, and he called Hamas a political movement. So he's going very soft on that particular position. Let's see. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I know. Stray Kitten came out and said, so nice of all these Candace apologists to come on your stream. I know. Welcome, guys. I appreciate it. That's okay. Post-millennial clutch fan. Yes. Candace realized that when she is hyperbolic, people check out her stream. Nothing more, nothing less. She is a grift. Maybe she always was. Let's add that one to the broadcast. There you go. And I'm going to add Stray Kittens as well. That's a great point. Oh yeah, the haters love to come on. It's fine. I'm okay with it. I love them anyways. That's what I'm supposed to do. Let's see. No, I did not say that Israel is our greatest ally. It is in the Middle East. You tell me where there's another one. And again, I look at that. I spent time when I was in the military. I spent plenty of time overseas. I know the ideology that drives those folks. You know, you've got the at least the crazy sects of that ideology, and we don't share that ideology with Israel. Israel is obviously, we share half a Bible with them, but we more closely align morally with them. So yeah, you tell me who's a better ally in the Middle East than Israel. Let's see. Oh, let's see. It's not about MAGA. So Jamar McGriff. This isn't about MAGA, left, right, gay, none of it. Well, that's kind of the movement that we're trying to continue. So I would disagree with that one. You might have to give me some more data on that one. So this guy, so Kyle, he says that nah, bro, Nick just tells the truth and advocates for white Christian America in the most authentic way. I don't care about white Christian America. I care about Christian America. I care about America in general. What's the end state if you go to you're saying white Christian America. Yeah, white Christians or white people are the majority, but we've got millions upon millions of people. We are a melting pot. Sorry, but we are. That's been the MO of America for a long time. When you start dividing us up, that's the same thing the left has been doing, by the way. The Democrat Party has been doing that. They did it from slavery through the Jim Crow South, and they still do it today. They're the ones that are saying we need to have black graduations and white graduations, and we need to have people divided along immutable characteristics. That is absolutely and entirely un-American. So your point is moot. Let's see. Oh, lots of comments tonight. Appreciate you guys. Even the haters, I love you guys too. This last comment, I don't exactly know what you mean here. Let's see. Let's see. If you call yourself a Christian, you need to check out Robert Spencer's book on Islam. If you call yourself a Christian and you still apologize for Islam after reading it, you're not a real believer. They are diametrically opposed religions, entirely, wholeheartedly, and completely. Sorry, I've known many that are beautiful and wonderful people, and I love them dearly. I do. Like I say, I've known many of them. But when you follow it to the nth degree, when you follow it to its end, much like a lot of these divisive ideologies, it becomes violent. And that's where the radicalization comes from. By the way, if you want to talk about one of the biggest threats that America has right now, that is still it. There's 2 billion Muslims in America, 500 million of them. There was a poll that was done, and that poll said that 28% of all Muslims in the world believed at some level violent jihad was acceptable. That comes to about 500 million people. That's a pretty dangerous precedent for us, for a Christian country. And I've done videos on this before talking about the folks that came across the southern border. We don't know, obviously, if they're going to send in people. They're going to send in some radicalized folks. And, look, it's a huge security concern for Americans. It's a huge security concern for me. How much money am I getting? Absolutely none. But once I get enough followers, I will definitely start doing memberships. You guys can do super chats. I'm a small channel. Why in the world would they pay a channel the size of mine? That's crazy. Come on, Joy. You're better than that. I know you are. Okay, guys. I think if I missed anybody's, I'm sure I missed some. I read all the haters. I love you guys anyway. I know you think I'm some cuck for a foreign country or whatever it happens to be. That's not uncommon. It's not uncommon when you do YouTube videos. But I appreciate you guys. If you, by the way, for the people that are on here who enjoyed this content, be sure to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is released. And this has been fun. I appreciate all the new viewers. And look, even if you guys hate me, you are more than welcome to subscribe to my channel and hop back on my next live stream and let's have a conversation. All right? Work for everybody? All right, guys. Enjoy your evening. We'll see you later. God bless you. God bless America. Have a great, great evening.